It's interesting because if we go back just 10 years, really every file on your network was similar. You had spreadsheets, you had blueprints, you had diagrams, you had whatever, but you had a type of data. Now you have all of those and all the metadata that go with them, but you now have AI, which is almost a living, breathing thing. The difference I see is AI becomes part of the workflow. It becomes part of how people come to work every morning and do their job. It reads the horizon, it scans different things like that. And so if you lose your AI, you really have a number of people that are shut out of work in a different way than would be the case if it was, the loss of spreadsheets or the loss of sort of business intelligence data. So I think we're going to start to see ransom attacks specifically targeting AI systems just because they become so key to a company's workflow.
So Jamal, I want to go back to something that you had kind of referred to earlier about the types of cyber threats that could fold in, and just based on what Chris was saying. I think that there's certainly is the necessity for resilience from being able to recover from some kind of event, but there's all sorts of other threats. And I think what was interesting, what Chris said is if the AI is part of everybody's day-to-day job, that's one thing. And trying to target that is definitely, I could see that as being a critical issue. But what about both targeting AI and leveraging AI for those threats? And how does that kind of factor into the types of risks that exist within the organization?
Yeah, great question. I mean, what's keeping me up at night at the moment is things like data poisoning, model theft, and these adversarial attacks. Which means that what the risks demand is not just stronger security, but actually smarter adaptive systems. So how do you use AI in that? So we can bring in zero trust security models, have strict authentication and monitoring at every stage of the data pipeline. Then we can use identity-based access controls to make sure that only authorized AI models and users can interact with the sensitive data. We can also make use of synthetic data. So we can train the actual AI systems on the synthetic data rather than the real world sensitive data sets. This will reduce the exposure to actual data breaches while maintaining accuracy of our models. And we can also leverage AI to monitor for anomalies for real-time threat detection, such as unusual access to data patterns or input manipulation, which will automatically trigger alerts and countermeasures that help us beat the bad guys faster.
Demetrius, one of the things that some of the clients that I've worked with in the past have suggested that they are concerned about moving their workloads to the cloud because of security issues or their concerns about security. And what I've told them is the cloud service providers have been very diligent in attempting to address this in a very aggressive way to raise the level of assurance and trust in the platform. So can you talk a little bit about AI specific threats and what Azure has been doing to try to address these?
Well, just overall, and instead of really diving into exactly what's going on at Azure, just overall, I just want to talk a little bit about just some of the things that are happening just overall from a security perspective, and the cloud maybe not being as secure, but it is as secure as your on-prem location. So if you talk about the shared responsibility model, right? So that means that you have to play your part and protect your data, right? And so everything else is already protected. So if you look at your infrastructure that the cloud is actually a part of, that's protected. So your data is something that you are responsible for protecting. So it's all about making sure that both are working hand in hand and that you are utilizing things like the zero trust and you're implementing multi-factor authentication and you're utilizing a zero trust architecture. So just making sure that you and your teams are all working together, because at the end of the day, whether it's protecting AI and you're talking lots of data, it's all about everyone working together as a team sport to make sure that, number one, things are automated, right? Making sure that you have everything configured properly in order to be able to recover in case something happens, because we all know that something will happen. And we continue to hear in the news almost on a daily basis that there's a breach or there's some type of ransomware attack geopolitical thing that's going on. So it's all about working together and making sure that everyone is playing their part in order to keep the perimeter secure and keep it safe.
So to talk about recovery, resilience, these are all the things that have bubbled up a little bit in each one of your responses. Rick, let me go to you. What do you guys think in terms of that level of capability, recovery, resilience, in terms of AI specific threats?
I love Eric's point. I hate to say another high-end enterprise app. That's a good starting point, but I would add a couple of different sprinkles of Ricketron dust here. Number one, I think no organization should go too far away from a responsible AI strategy. A couple of things here include focusing on ethical AI. That becomes really important as an organization, is building on some models, whether they model steal it or build it. Then secondly, I'd really recommend organizations never go too far from anything that's not explainable and being transparent with those models. I know there's some legislation here in the US around even having the ability to opt out of being handled by AI. I can't remember if that got passed, but it was part of the AI Bill of Rights. And then the last thing is around data privacy and minimal data use. Those are some really always in season types of things. So those are some kind of guidelines I would also offer up for that.